Hello folks and welcome to this video on the GCSE English language course. This video is appropriate if you're doing the AQA course in English language from the summer of 2026. Don't use these videos if you're doing another spec or if you're doing your exam in November 2025. Today we are looking at question 4, so I would recommend if you haven't watched the other videos in this series that you go back and do the other questions before you get to this one. So question 4 is asking us to focus this part of our response on line 10 to the end. It gives us a statement. So here it says the strange man is unquestionably frightening and powerful, and it says to what extent do you agree? There are 20 marks for this question, so we need to write a fair bit, maybe 3 or 4 paragraphs, and we have about 20 minutes for our answer. Now, if you look at the screen, you can see that we already drew a box around the section of the text that we need to focus on. If you draw your quotations from lines 1 to 9 and you spend ages analysing them in your answer, unfortunately you won't get many marks for that because it says to focus your response on line 10 to the end. So the question says, is the strange man powerful and frightening? And to help me plan my answer, I've done an agree-disagree table. So on the left-hand column, I've said, yes, he is powerful and frightening. And in the right-hand column, I've said, no, absolutely not. He isn't powerful and frightening. And I'm keeping my notes really short. So you can see that instead of writing quotations, I've put line numbers. So here I've said in line 10, he's intimidating and mysterious. That's when Pip notices that he's got the iron shackle on his leg. So your job is to stop the video, have a look at the text. Hopefully you've downloaded it from my website, which is amysmithliterature.wordpress.com, and then jot down some line numbers that might help you answer this question and some ideas to go with each line number, and then start the video again when you're ready. Right, here are my ideas. So in line 10, that's the bit with the iron shackle. It shows that the character is intimidating, he's mysterious, he's extremely kind of unusual in this situation. He appears out of nowhere. Pip is really frightened of him. Then if you look at line 14 and line 23, you can see how physically powerful this man is. He seizes Pip's chin, he turns him upside down. So those verbs suggest that kind of physical strength, that physical dominance over Pip. And then in lines 30 to 31, it almost takes a supernatural bent because as he walks across the graveyard, Pip says that the man seemed to elude the hands of the dead people, as in he was able to escape from the hands of the dead people. However, there is another side to this man. In lines 11 to 13, he seems really vulnerable. He seems lost in the wilderness. And then in lines 27 to 28, he seems to be completely falling apart. He seems to be losing control of the situation. So there is a counter argument as well. So once you've reread the text, you've jotted down your ideas, you've got the line numbers, you've got your ideas written in your table, then you can start to write your answer. And here is my example. So let's just read it first. So when Dickens initially introduces the strange man, he does seem to be frightening. He is described through Pip's childish eyes as a fearful man, all in coarse grey, with a great iron on his leg. Dickens emphasises the juxtaposition between the vulnerability of the child and the escaped prisoner, which enhances the sense of fear the man conveys. This is amplified by the adjective fearful, which connotes danger and the terror Pip feels. Yet, as the paragraph progresses, Dickens suggests that there is another side to this strange man and indicates that he is like Pip, lost and alone in the wilderness. Dickens does this by listing the man's misfortunes: soaked in water, smothered in mud, and lamed by stones. The verbs soaked and smothered and lamed indicate that the man is no match for the natural world and that he is struggling to survive without shelter. Therefore, Dickens indicates that perhaps he is not frightening, but instead is a figure of pity. Okay, I want you to pause the video and just have a little think about this example answer, and you're going to write down 3 things that you think are good about this example, and then start the video again when you're ready. Okay, there's lots of things that you might come up with. I'm just going to focus on a couple here. And the first thing I'm going to focus on is how clearly I've answered the question. You can see in my first point sentence, I directly explore the idea of whether the man is frightening or not. And I say that, yes, I agree, he is initially frightening. Then halfway through my paragraph, I'm saying, actually, there's a bit of a counter-argument here. We could argue the other side. Perhaps he's lost, he's isolated, he's vulnerable. So I've signaled that really clearly. And then at the end of the paragraph again, I've suggested what my response is directly to the question. So that's the first thing that I've done well in my answer. Now, the second thing I'm going to show you is a key mistake that people often make when they're writing their answers to this question. Students often get so caught up with the argument saying, yes, I agree, or no, I don't agree, that they actually forget to analyse the text. And most of the marks on this question are for your analysis. So here I've highlighted my analysis. Now, before you look at it, just have a little think. In the other videos, what did I say that analysis meant? So just think about that for a second. Okay, so in both the videos on question 2 and question 3, I said that analysis is where you identify the writer's methods and then you explore why the writer has used that method. So to do that, you need some evidence, and I've highlighted that in green. I've got the quotation, a fearful man, all in coarse grey with a great iron on his leg, and soaked in water, smothered in mud, and lamed by stones. That's my evidence. Then I've identified the methods. I've got this in blue. So juxtaposition, adjective, verbs. Those are all methods. And then in pink, I'm explaining why those particular methods have been used. So overall, it's a good answer because in yellow, I've answered the question directly, I've constructed my argument, I mainly agree with the question, but I have some elements of disagreement. In green, I've got my evidence to support that. In blue, I've identified the methods, and in pink, I've explored why those methods have been used. Of course, this would only be part of my answer. I've got 20 minutes to do this. I'm aiming for 3 or 4 paragraphs. So it's over to you now. If you've downloaded the booklet that accompanies this from my website, have a go at answering the question. You can see in the booklet that I put some sentence starters there. Use them if that's helpful to you, or if you want to change them or tweak them or ditch them completely and use your own, that is also absolutely fine. Thank you very much for watching then, folks, and the next video will be on question 5.